My name is Cole Reynolds. For the mini project, I chose the product breakdown option. What I chose to break down was a fishing reel. The specific fishing reel is a Cast King Speed Demon. It has a 9 to 3 to 1 gear ratio, which is pretty big for the bait casting reel in the bass fishing industry. There was a total of 82 parts. A lot of them consisted of bearings, washers, and screws, with a few gears here and there, and a few drive shafts, and some springs. With this component being a smaller component, one of the difficulties I had within this product was taking it apart, and with such little parts, it's hard to manually take it apart. You have to have like special tools to do some of the parts. The way I solved this problem was just taking my time and really looking at the part and seeing how I could take it apart. My goal within this project was to fully tear down a fishing reel and then be able to put it back together the right way. Another goal was to see how each component worked and how the gears worked with the drag system, and also like the drive shafts. The main body consists of 3 parts that all connect together. And then over here you have the handle assembly, which is a main component. Here is the gear assembly. For me, I think this is the most important assembly of the reel because of the large gear here. It plays a big role for this particular reel because it's made to do certain type of techniques with different type of lures, and for those techniques to be done, it has to have a big gear ratio. For those techniques, you need a lot of torque, and this is where the torque comes from. And so with each revolution of the handle, you get 9.3 inches of line back. Within this gear assembly, there are carbon drag washers in this area, and those help when a fish is on and it is pulling hard, and it releases the spool system, so it'll let out line slowly as the fish is pulling, based on how hard the fish is pulling. This gear assembly consists of metal washers, gears, and the carbon fiber washers for the drag system, along with the drive shaft. Most of the parts within the gear assembly were made by machines. There's not really a certain process you have to go through. This here is the drive shaft. This is one of the most important parts on the reel. This is where a lot of parts are attached to. There's a total of 25 parts attached to the drive shaft, with 2 gears, anti-reverse ratchet, and a lot of washers and some ball bearings. Within this piece, there is a lot thicker in diameter and length than most other pieces. So the reason for that is because it holds so many parts on it. This part almost has a relationship with almost all other parts, because without this part, it wouldn't turn the gears, which wouldn't turn the a spool which will turn the line guide. So this here is probably one of the most main parts there is on the reel. This part is just machine made. There's nothing too special about it. It is hollow at the threaded ends. This here is the brake assembly. There are 6 magnets that are held by the magnet holder. What their purpose on the reels for is when you're casting, your spool may be going too fast for the line to come out, and then that results in what they call a backlash. The reason why there's brakes on reels is so you can prevent that from happening. The way this happens is that there's a brake adjusting knob on the side of the reel, and you can either move those magnets closer to the metal spool or further away based on what your preference is. And with that, and with the distance being either closer or further from the spool, the magnetic field of the brakes will make the spool go slower or faster based on how far it is from the spool. For me, this is probably one of the coolest assemblies on the reel. Who would have ever thought that there'd be brakes on a reel? But this just shows that there is. The magnets and the screws itself within the brake assembly, those are machine made, and then the plastics within the assembly are injection molded plastics. This is the anti-reverse assembly. The parts here are attached to the drive shaft. What this does is it prevents the handle from going backwards, so when you're like reeling in, it won't mess up on you. This is a very critical piece of assembly to the reel. Within it, it's composed of a plastic gear, a metal like anti-reverse gear type thing, along with a drive shaft retainer and a ball bearing. The drive shaft was machine made. The plastic gear was also machine made. The anti-reverse ratchet was machine made as well, along with all the other parts. All the ball bearings on the product help things that rotate better. With the fishing reel, ball bearings are pretty critical, as there's a lot of turning of axles going on within the reel. Here's the handle assembly. This is another important assembly on the reel. The handle assembly turns pretty much everything within the reel that can turn. Without the handle assembly, your reel would not work at all. So what the main function of the reel is to retrieve line back. The gears within inside the reel will turn, and then it will turn the spool to retrieve the line. The reel handle is held on there with a nut and a screw. All these parts here were made by machines. This here is a worm shaft. This guides the line back onto the spool evenly, so that way you can prevent backlash and uneven line retrieval. This is an important part for casting because you want a nice even surface when casting with your line. You can see it is rigid right along here. That's to turn with the line guide. So when that rotates, the line guide will rotate. The worm shaft is machine made. This here is the left side plate and the brake adjusting knob. With this, the left side plate will hold parts together, and then the brake adjusting knob will adjust the brakes. You can open this plate up with this right there, and that will open up the reel so you can work on it and adjust the brakes manually if you want to. We can even like take a brake out, as in a magnet out of it, if you want even less braking power. Brakes aren't necessarily a necessity on reels, but it helps out a lot. So this piece here is not as important as some of the others. These two pieces were made by injection molding plastics.